starvation. 9 million people left. People were eating the zoo animals in Caracas because there was no food. Middle-class families who once had a nice life were eating garbage out of the garbage cans outside, trying to find scraps. Then he quietly took that statement about the American dream being Caracas off of his website, and he kind of, tried to pretend like he didn't say that. And now that this has happened with Maduro, he raises his head again, but he has never stood with the people, not just the poverty, because everyone knows about the poverty in Venezuela, but the repression as well. The woman who's in charge right now, Delcy Rodriguez, she is behind a lot of that repression. There's a reason why the military backs her, because anybody who opposed Maduro in the military, especially in the upper echelons, was executed by orders of her. So she is a torturer in chief, and it's very troubling that she remains in place, and I'm worried about these decisions. I know that the Trump administration is grappling with, how do we, take out Maduro and not have massive chaos? It is a very reasonable thing to think about and to be concerned about. But I'm afraid that this woman here is the wrong person in charge. She's actually the brains of the operation, Lawrence. Maduro was a bus driver for Chavez. Yep. He's an idiot. He's a clown. Made fun of him. This woman is, that's right. This woman is the real problem. She is a communist, hardcore, anti-American, and she's incredibly corrupt. She's also behind the election fraud that denied the election for Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo Gonzalez. And so this is all very, very difficult situation that we're in right now. But I think we would be better off, Lawrence, if we found a way to put the woman who won the election back in office. She won by over 70%. She is pro-American. She respects President Trump. She respects President Trump so much, Lawrence, that she wanted to dedicate the Nobel Prize that was given to her to President Trump because she believed he deserved it, not her. And she has already said she will work with the president on economic issues, on the oil, and on rooting out the corruption that is so deep, not just through Venezuela. This network of corruption goes across Latin America, and she knows where the bodies are buried here. And I think she will work closely with Marco Rubio and with President Trump to put this country back on track. I'm very worried about the fact that we cannot trust Delcy Rodriguez. She is a bad
Let me tell you something, Rachel. You're spot on. I have many friends in Venezuela, so I've been communicating with them on the ground. No running water now, a lot of them right now. She has continued to cut the power. She's also instituted a 10 p.m. curfew in some of the towns as well. And you see the motorcycle gang that they have right there that is also an arm of the military terrorizing the protesters as well. So the president is going to have his handfuls with her as well. But he has promised them this, that her fate could be worse than Maduro. So we're going to be following on. Rachel Campos Duffy, you have been great on this, and we look forward to your commentary as this progresses. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lawrence.
And thank you all so much for watching Fox and Friends. With all of the breaking news, we'll be here tomorrow.
So good morning, everybody. Here we go. Live look outside the federal courthouse in downtown New York City, where a few hours from now, the ousted Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife will be arraigned on drug trafficking charges. This after several days of coverage, after a stunning midnight capture at the hands of the U.S. military. Working through the story. Story's going to be with us for a while. Good morning. Happy New Year. I'm Bill Hemmer, live here in New York, and a Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. I missed you. But I knew that when we got back, we would be back at it because there's big action. There's a new video this morning showing law enforcement transporting Maduro to court. He is facing charges of narco-terrorism, importing cocaine, and possessing machine guns.
So American forces captured him early on Saturday during a massive strike on the capital city of Caracas, and that operation sending shockwaves throughout Washington and the world, still to this point. President Trump saying that Maduro left him no choice.
What really played is the fact that he sent millions of people into our country from prisons and from mental institutions and drug dealers and every drug addict in that country, in his country, was sent into our country. And the fact that he sent drugs into our country, we're stopping it rapidly with what we're doing with the sea, because they come in.
So now we have our team in place. Paul Morrow reports outside the courthouse. Aisha Hosni reports at the White House. Brett Baer has analysis. First, though, to Eric Shawn outside that courthouse in Manhattan to begin our coverage on this Monday morning. Eric, hello.
Good morning, Bill. Well, he was not the legitimate president of Venezuela, but instead a billion-dollar drug lord. So says the indictment of Nicolas Maduro, who will be arraigned here in Manhattan federal court in this blockbuster case today at noontime. This morning, Maduro and his wife Celia were brought to court under heavy guard. They were traveling in armored trucks and flown over the East River from jail in Brooklyn to Manhattan in a military helicopter. They were captured during that daring raid over the weekend and charged with running a multi-billion-dollar narco-terrorist organization for more than 2 decades that flooded our country with cocaine. The indictment says he partnered with Mexican and Colombian drug cartels, the Sinolas and Zetas, and turned the Venezuelan government into the cartel of the Suns, relying on top officials there and the country's military to support the drug operation. The indictment says, quote, Maduro, the defendant, is at the forefront of that corruption, and he partnered with his co-conspirators to use his illegally obtained authority and the institutions he corroded to transport thousands of tons of cocaine to the United States. Prosecutors say the Sinaloa and Zeta cartels paid Venezuelan officials $100,000 a flight to move cocaine, that he used the Venezuelan military to protect the shipments and gave cartel members diplomatic passports so they could not be arrested. 6 months ago, right here at federal court, the former head of Venezuela's military intelligence, Hugo Carvajal, who had a falling out with Maduro, pled guilty to similar charges of narco-terrorism and drug running. Carvajal could be the key witness against Maduro at his trial. He did admit to running Maduro's drug cartel. The arraignment is expected to be brief. Usually defendants are asked whether or not they plead guilty or not guilty, and then they discuss potential bail. It is likely that he will, of course, not get any bail. We're also waiting a word on who will be representing him. He does have a lawyer here in the United States, but we don't know if that lawyer is representing him here at this court session or if he could get a defender. We'll see when it starts in about 3 hours.
Got it. Okay, Eric, thanks. Setting the table for us downtown. Thank you, Eric. Dana.
And now let's get more on the Trump administration's plans for Venezuela after Maduro. We'll go to Aisha Hosni. She's at the White House. Hi, Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you guys. So the president is doubling down on his stance that the United States is currently in control of and operating Venezuela. He says that the newly appointed president there is cooperating with U.S. officials, and he had this warning for her in case she doesn't. Watch.
I just say that she will face a situation probably worse than Maduro, because you know Maduro gave up immediately.
So she could also
he raised his hand, he gave up, and he did the right thing.
So the Miami Herald has been reporting that Delcy Rodriguez was quietly courting Washington in recent weeks, promoting herself and her brother as, quote, more acceptable alternatives to Maduro's regime. There's been some criticism from the Venezuelan community that keeping her in power is not change at all, but Rodriguez is softening her tone, writing this: we invite the U.S. government to collaborate with us on an agenda of cooperation oriented towards shared development within the framework of international law to strengthen lasting community coexistence. Now, Congress, in the meantime, has a lot of questions about what happened over this weekend, specifically on the legality of all of this and what happens next. The Gang of Eight, which is the top House and Senate leaders, plus the top folks on the Intel, Foreign, and Armed Services Committee, they will get a classified briefing this evening from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as well as Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Kane, and the CIA Director John Ratcliffe, as well as AG Pam Bondi. Also, one more thing that we are tracking here from the White House today, Dana, is an incident that happened just last night in Ohio, in Cincinnati, at the vice president's home there. Secret Service is telling us that they actually arrested a man there in custody now for breaking windows.